It's in my DNA. I can't not show up and do my absolute best and go, okay, I'm here because they trusted me to provide a service, and I'm going to outperform anyone's expectation of what that looks like, and have them go, wow, we've never met a guy like this before.
That's incredible.
And whatever happens, happens.
Yeah. And I've had a couple other things. I've had companies, I've tried to help them and it didn't work. One of them went out of business, but
that's most of the
stuff. Yeah, unfortunately, right? But I like having fun doing it. But going back to, like you said about your dad, I think I learned all my work ethic from my father. He was a contractor, hardworking guy, and I went to work with him, and I think I learned a couple valuable lessons with him. Actually, one of my first ones was, I think when you're teenagers, maybe we're a little entitled, or we think whatever we believe, and he made it really clear, man, everyone's got to work in the house. Like, there's no free lunch.
Welcome to Get Busy Livin. Got a great show for you today. I got a good buddy in studio, and we're going to get into his life and all of the amazing things that he's done. But first thing I got to do is talk to you about some stuff that most guys don't ever want to talk about. It's like having blood work done. The reality is most guys don't even want to go to the doctor and find out what is going on in their life, and that could be very detrimental to you if you're not really diligent about those sorts of things. So I've set up a relationship with a company called Merrick Health so we can get your blood work done. It's easy, it's convenient. All you got to do is click the show notes, use Maximized Man as a discount, and we'll figure out exactly where you are and exactly how to take you to where you want to go. Second relationship I have set up for you is Vitos Lifestyle. Now, this is a company I've been involved with for a long time. You've heard me talk about them before. They have tools. We all need tools to get fit. So bands, kettlebells, different things that you could throw in your gym bag or have available to you when you travel, whatever it is, man. Like, literally, there is no excuse to not be prepared. These items aren't expensive, especially when you use the discount code Clark. Click on the show notes and go right there. It'll direct you right to it. So anyway, I got a buddy in studio today, Bruce Cardenas. And Bruce is a legend in the industry, honestly. He and I have known each other for a long time, but today we're going to get into some stuff about you that I don't know. And I know you have a rich history, not just in fitness, but other areas. So
yeah, the
purpose of the show, Bruce, is really, it's called Get Busy Livin. Mm-hmm. As you know, I coach men over 50 all around the world just to be their best. You've seen me in this industry for years.
Absolutely.
You know, I walk the walk, I talk the talk, I do all of that. But anyway, welcome to Get Busy Livin, brother. I'm glad that you made the 2-hour drive to come here. And
well worth it. Thank you very much. The studio is amazing, by the way.
Isn't it awesome?
Yeah.
Yeah, Jim did a great job for me. So anyway, let's dig into you and who you are. Go back to wherever you feel like you want to start and tell your story, because your story is going to resonate with other men in this world as it relates to what you've done and who you've become today.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And feel free to interrupt, because I don't know if I want to, long-winded, but I kind of always start out my spiel that I was a middle-class dumb kid from New Jersey. Now, one of my coaches said, stop using the word dumb. Okay, I was a CD student. I was a daydreamer in school and didn't do well academically, but I was an athlete, always worked out. And when I got out of high school, I always wanted to be a police officer. My neighbor was a cop, my uncle was a cop, and it was just something I was very proud of. And I went to the local police chief, which was a very small department, a 6-person department. And I said, hey, how do I become a cop? And he said, Bruce, we did some ride-alongs, right? And he said, honestly, he goes, you're very young, immature, in his own kind way. This is a grown man talking to me. He goes, but if you go in the Marine Corps, when you get out, I'll hire you. He specifically said the Marine Corps. He didn't say the military.
You're how old at this time?
20, okay. Turning 21. I fumbled around working out of high school, not really knowing what I wanted to do, except to be a cop, but I didn't know the path to get there. It's interesting. You get out of school and you think, okay, I want to do the following, but I didn't have a path to get there. So grabbed my best friend, Bob, and said, we're going to the Marine Corps together. And I realized New Jersey was not the whole world. I think as many of us grow up, you think where you grew up is, what else is there, right?
It is the whole world.
It is, right?
Your block could be.
My main street, my friends everywhere. And if we went to the next neighbor, city, that was a big outing, So I went to the Marine Corps and discovered it was a big world. And it was a good place.
You went to Parris Island.
Parris Island for boot camp.
What was your platoon?
gosh, 2096. I think that's funny you say that.
Okay, yeah, I was 3rd Battalion Age Company Platoon 3092.
Oh God, Paris Island or
Paris Island.
Oh my gosh, Semper Fi, man. I didn't know that. I did not know that about you. That was a wake up call. In 12 weeks, I dropped 25 pounds, got shredded, and went from being just an average person to I was a squad leader by the time I graduated. And probably early on they would have called me a shitbird at the beginning, right?
This is what year?
I went in 1982.
Okay, so I was 81.
Oh shit. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's amazing.
Yeah, you were in what? So you were what battalion?
Second battalion.
Second. So yeah, I was 3rd. I was all the way back into the corner.
Wow.
Yeah.
It was, Paris Island was an experience, right? But talk about growing up and being from a kid to wow, you're a man. And I remember when my parents came down for graduation, yes sir, yes ma'am, and they're like, who's this kid? So, but that changed my life, and it kind of put me on a course. I still knew I wanted to be a cop, but I took the Marine Corps seriously. And I always say, sometimes people say things are happening out of luck in life, but I've learned that it's relationships that'll get you there too. Have we all been lucky at times? For sure. But I noticed the relationships kept lining up because my first sergeant on my first assignment, I was a grunt, and he said, hey, I have an opportunity for one of the generals looking for a security aide to help. I'm going to put your name in. And he said, there's something about you I like. He goes, you're outgoing, you make things happen, you're a relationship guy. He didn't use those words, but this is an old crotchety.
Well, that's really, if I were to look at your career, that's what has built your entire career.
100%. And
you go to any show anywhere, everybody.
Yeah, and it's interesting. This is an old crotchety first sergeant recognizing that. So I was kind of, okay, that's great. So I ended up being on a security detail. Great job. And I was also a power lifter in the Marine Corps because as you know in the military, right? Marine Corps, you're either partying or you're working out, right? And that's the escape. So I worked out and I gravitated to a group of guys that were either powerlifting, bodybuilding, were serious about fitness and nutrition. And that had always been my core. Even in high school, I did some, amateur powerlifting, but so that set the course, and it was a great, Marine Corps. I tell everybody, even young people now, if you don't have a path, the military is not a bad option for free education, for training. I obviously would be nervous. My son's done 2 tours in Iraq, and it's a little different feeling now that I'm a parent. But if I was a young kid, it's an option, right? Yeah. So fast track, I get out of the Marine Corps. But the unique thing is, I got out of the Marine Corps in Camp Pendleton. They discharged me because however they calculate things. And at the time, I wanted to go back to New Jersey and be a cop, but I was at Camp Pendleton, and there was a career day on base at the time. IBM and these different companies had this, career day, CHP. And I was like, wow, beautiful weather, beautiful people, and wow, and I can get paid to work here? So I started the process, and I processed with about 20 different police departments. At the time, I always remind people, there was no internet. There was no application online. You had to drive or call, and they'd mail you an application 6 weeks later. So after a year of processing, LAPD picked me up. So I was in class 188 of LAPD.
This is
1988. I started the police academy in January, and that started another path that I had always, a boyhood dream, and it was phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I've always, and a lot of things I learned as a cop, and I tell people, because, some police have a bad reputation. I learned very quickly, the world is not black and white. Even though they teach you in the academy, here's the rules. When you get out there, the world's very gray, and how you treat people. And I might be a unique character, and I think I am after working with all these different people. There's the spirit of the law and the letter of the law. I've always worked within the spirit of the law.
So what does that mean specifically? So the letter of the law is black and white.
You broke the law.
You're going to jail.
You have a gun. You have a pound of cocaine, whatever. You're going to jail.
Right.
The spirit of the law is, gosh, this guy was down and out. He did a stupid thing. He shoplifted.
So it's more like the movie Colors, right? When you see
De Niro and the young guy.
And whoever it was.
Penn, wasn't it?
Yeah, Sean Penn. So he is working within the spirit of the law.
Yeah.
He has relationships with people. He understands their socioeconomic situation and factors that in within reason.
Exactly.
Okay.
Now I wish I could multiply that and train people. It's just became my niche, because my first training officer was no joke. I remember I got in the police car, old time guy, a Vietnam vet. He was on the end of his career, but an old tough guy. And he said, hey, listen, he drew a picture. There's no lie. There used to be like in the center between, you'd sit like where you'd make notes. So it was like a notepad if you had to write something down. He drew a picture of a face with big ears and big eyes and no mouth. He said, you know what that is? So big ears, big eyes, and no mouth. He goes, that's you. You need to pay attention, keep your eyes and ears open.
Hey, everybody draw that right now for yourself, because
a
lot of people can benefit that. Big ears, big eyes, no mouth. Tape X across it.
And that's where I learned one of my skills too. A lot of people, listening skills. People just don't listen. They think they listen. I tell people, this is another conversation, but people are already formulating a response while you're still talking, so they're not listening. So I learned a valuable lesson about listening, and I grew up with him too, but I learned something. He was a tough guy, and he was a little rough on people. And I remember I had an incident early on. I was manhandling a guy, white dude, old biker dude. I was bringing him to the station by the cuffs, and the lieutenant saw me, hooked him to the bench. Lieutenant calls me and, hey, Cardenas, I got to talk to you. He goes, I know you're working with Bob, and he's an old-time crotchety dude. I know how he treats people. He's a rough dude. He goes, you need to decide which path you're going to go as a cop. Are you going to be kind? Are you going to be within the spirit of the law? Or are you going to be that whole, rough dude who has a bad reputation? And he said, I'm not going to tell you what to do. He goes, but how you handle that guy right now is not acceptable. He's just, do you know his story? He's someone's uncle, brother, cousin, father. He goes, why is he here? He had a warrant. He goes, you know why he had a warrant? Go find out. Come back and tell me. So I found out he was down and out. Car got impounded. All the things that happen in life, right? He said, so he's got a story, right? He goes, so think about that, how you treat people. And that really, I literally went home. I think I cried even, because I realized how you treat somebody, you could change the rest of their life. So from that point on, I realized everyone's got a story. I want to know their story before I took action, right? Now, obviously, you're a murderer, you're a rapist, or pedophile. There's, okay, you're going to jail. Yeah. If you have a suspended license, you shoplifted, you're carrying some weed in your pocket. There's things that you could really mess up someone's life. So that really, I became a PR relationship guy while I was a cop, and I had to sway my partner sometimes on how to be like that.
So, is there a reason you were manhandling that guy? Were you angry? Or were you trying to impress the old man?
Combination of things. I think I was trying to impress him because that's how he was. Yeah. And even afterwards, he said, hey, you're going to see, there's people that sometimes need to be manhandled. And after I worked with him for a year, I realized he had some kindness in him too.
Yeah.
But I was trying to impress him. Hey, I'm the young buck. I want to show him, hey, I got this, And it wasn't really the right way. It wasn't anything, I don't think anyone would look at me as a bad person for doing it, but it was definitely something that set me in a direction that I realized it's okay to be, kind to people.
It's funny how influence, right? That was a form of influence. We throw around this word now, influence, in a way that I don't think people really truly get what influence is. And the reason I asked you, did you try and impress the old man, is I'll share something that I did when I was a young parent. I got beat bad when I was a kid. Uh-huh. I got beat for everything. My mom would have been in prison if it was today. No mom.
Right.
And my mom came to visit one time, and my little kid did something, and I spanked her to impress my mom.
Yeah, which you would not have normally.
I would not have done it. And like you, I felt so bad. To this day, it makes me want to cry because I'm like, that was not in me. And you're saying that was not in you. You're more of a spirit of the law kind of guy who understands, look, I'm just a dude. That's just a dude. He made a bad mistake. Because the reality is, I've been in a lot of prisons, and the majority of men in prison, women in prison, are there by circumstances. And those circumstances are not because they're a bad person, because they were just in a situation that they had to figure out how to get out of. So their best thinking got them there. Now, there are those people who deserve to be locked up, never come out, and all that sort of thing. But I appreciate that. I appreciate the fact that you understand, because I think too many cops get a bad rap, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, you got some stuff you got to deal with,
Yeah, and I that's the mindset I had, and when I would work with people, I'd say, listen, let's evaluate each case by case. And even when I worked in the toughest parts, I used to work down in Compton in the projects, and I was a pretty big dude then. I mean, pretty jacked, more so than I am, older now. And I remember having conversations with with gangsters and former prisoners, guys, because they just hang out on the street. They're not working. They're either selling drugs or just hanging out in the corner. And there's a couple times where I would just deflect, and I'd start talking about lift. Hey, bro, how much you benching, by the way? Instead of getting into my partner, hey, let me see your fucking hands, and treating them like that. I said, listen, let's just have a conversation. What were you in for? Oh, okay, cool. How much you benching? bro, how much you benching? And they're in conversation in prison, how many wheels do you do? So I said I could do 3 wheels. I had a couple times, I actually got in trouble one time, written up, but it was this I did a push-up contest on the street with a couple guys, a couple hardcore gang members, but we're out. Had a push-up contest, and one of them actually beat me. We did like 52, and I'm in full uniform and a vest and everything. But the fact is, when I'd see them from now on, I'd say, hey, what's up? And they'd give me the thumbs up. Yeah. I knew then if I ever had a problem, they were not going to be guys that were going to be messing with me.
Yeah, why would an organization write you up for something that you're trying to make a connection, which could potentially have a person think, you know what, that Cardenas dude is cool. I'm not going to do this because I respect that cat for getting down and doing push-ups with me. It literally makes no sense. That's operating within the letter of the law. And
that got me a lot of mileage. And actually, the guys worked. But a sergeant pulled up and said, "Dude, why are you're in uniform doing push-ups?" He goes, "You know, that's not a good representation." I said, "You got to be kidding me, right?" Like, and anyway, so but I continue to do that. I continue to help kids. And, there's one other incident, we could talk all day about the police thing, but, I pulled over a couple young black kids one time, 19 and 18. They were coming from basketball practice, they said, and they were driving a SUV, beat up SUV. They just blew through a light. It wasn't even close. And I was very, had a lot of latitude on that too. I wouldn't stop people for just nonsense. And I walked up and said, hey, license and registration. And they were like this, 10 and 2. And I said, give me his license. And I said, I need the registration. He said, it's in the glove box. But they weren't moving. And I said, well, are you guys okay? Like, unless you got a gun in there,
right? I
just need your registration. And I talk like this too. I'm kind of like a smile. And they open up the glove box, and there's probably a brick of weed, whatever. I don't know. I don't even know the equivalent of what it would have been in there. And I said, listen, I'm not really interested in that. I do need your registration though. And I just got the registration. I say, just for future, that's a pretty decent amount you got in there. You could probably go for a way for distribution. And I wrote him a ticket and let him go. Now, here's a crazy thing, another opportunity where I probably could have gotten in trouble. I guess they went home and told there's somebody in their family, hey, this cool cop, man, I'll be honest, we effed up, but he let me go. The mom drugged those two to the station the next day. I'm getting a call, so I get a message, hey, come in and see the captain. I'm like, oh, you never want to see the captain, right? And the mom's in there with these two kids, and she said, I just want you to know, this Officer Cardenas, these boys could be in prison for a decade probably, but he was treated us with respect and dignity. And it was amazing because it was another one of those tearjerker shit. Like, they left and the captain said, I'm glad you did that, but that was obviously a decision you made on your own in the street. Like, it was still illegal, but I appreciate you looking out for those two kids. But another situation where it was like the spirit of the law, right?
Yeah.
They could still be in prison. It was
absolutely, man.
And the mom said, hey, they're good work. They're nice kids. They play basketball. They just effed up.
Yeah, mom will handle business.
They'll be handled later.
Mama, I think sometimes you'd rather be locked up for a few days than have to deal with
mom. Exactly. And that's what I found working down, especially in the hood. Some of the parents would be brutal on their kids. And I realized, okay, well, someone's taking care of it.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of risk out there, right? So you have to kind of, we'll keep the boundaries within what the risk is out there.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
But I will say this, summing up my experience as being a police officer, the community overall is great. I mean, in some of the worst areas in the cities, they would host block parties and barbecues and invite us, There's a lot of hardworking people in the city that are really just dedicated to, living a good life. Yeah. Of course, they have family members that screw up, so.
Stereotyping things it's horrible that we do that.
Yeah.
We all do it. None of us are
not
guilty of doing that.
Absolutely.
But having the privilege of being able to be in those situations, it gives you a unique perspective that I believe has helped you in your career, right? Because you could see people, especially in our industry, like, oh, that guy, who does he think he is? Look at how he walks around. It's like, well, he has a story too.
Yeah.
And a lot of the people in our industry will hide behind these, who said it? Little boy in gorilla suits.
Yeah.
Little boys in gorilla suits. That's what we. So wrapping up the career in the law enforcement was for how long?
I did 12 years full time, and I transitioned to be. I'm still a reserve with the LA County Sheriff's, which has now been 15 years. Okay. But the reason I left the police department was I started working off duty like many cops do, and I worked for a retired sergeant who had an executive protection business. And I did that for a year with him, and I said, this is something I could do. Like, I could do this on my own. So I got my license and insurance, and once again, relationships. One of my good friends owned a limousine company, and I went and met with him and said, I'm going to start this security company. So great, let me start calling some clients. And I started doing executive protection, which became a pretty decent sized business, believe it or not. And, I had Mariah Carey as a client, Courtney Love for a decade, J-Lo, and you name the artists. And if they were under Sony Music, I had involvement with them.
So that's what you did, is you went to Sony and said, hey, I want to license myself to you, basically.
Yeah, well, what happened was my friend I got my own license as a security person, but I had friends that owned companies, and they started calling people for me. And what happens, once you get your first gig, I worked for Tommy Mottola at the time, who ran Sony Music, right? And he was married to Mariah Carey. So I worked for them a couple times, and once that happened, then you could call other artists. Hey, I'm working with Tommy. Oh, and under their label, and then people. Oh, what do you need? So I picked up Ricky Martin, Mark Anthony, J-Lo, you name it. I just kept doing work, and it became a monster of a machine.
Is it anything like The Bodyguard, the movie?
That's crazy. I'll have to send you a picture. I did some technical advising on the movie, The Bodyguard. Yeah, I was at the premiere.
So how much...
Unfortunately, it's not. They'll answer your question.
Yeah, okay. So that's what I was going to ask. How much free will and license do they take in Hollywood to embellish on those situations to make them, watchable?
Definitely embellished, for sure. I mean, I did some cool things and traveled the world and have done cool things with clients, but I was also known, once again, a relationship guy, but I knew my social cues, and a lot of people in security don't know that. I call it social cues. To keep your distance, I was just a planner and a thinker and getting people in and out of problems and situations. And I think if you went back on any of my clients, they would be like, oh yeah, Bruce was a nice guy, but I don't know anything about him. He was just there and he did his job.
Yeah, you knew your role, and you
stayed
within your lane.
And a lot of people don't. I hire guys. I've actually lost a couple of clients because I've hired guys and, hey, I need you to go here. You're going to go to Mexico with this person, and they overstepped their bounds. They got too comfortable.
Can I get your autograph?
Yeah, or sitting down with dinner with them, and that's a whole nother thing. Social cues.
Yeah.
That's probably no different than being a personal trainer, right? Someone says, hey, come to my house and train me. I want you to leave. I'm not asking you to stay for dinner, right?
Yeah, some people have no social cues or awareness or grace or whatever you want to refer to it as. It's like, do you not understand that it's time for you to go home and I don't want you here anymore?
And that's why I had my success. And then, so I still have some executive protection clients that I still take care of, a couple high profile people.
So any stories that you can share that, like, maybe where there was a situation, maybe a crazy fan or something that you had to really intervene and do your job?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And there's a few, because most of the time, like I said, my job was I liked getting people in and out of places and back doors. And even when we would take, Mariah Carey was a big one. She'd like to go to Disney World and do the Tower of Terror, but everything was back door. And
so she is much of a diva as...
I think she got worse since I left. Really? But yeah.
Okay.
Some are high demand, some are divas, and some aren't what you perceive. I mean, Charlie Sheen was a client for a decade.
He seems like he'd be chill and fun.
Nicest guy in the world.
Party with you. He's like, bro.
Yeah. He would actually invite me. Hey, I'm having a party Friday night, so I'll be at the front door.
Yeah. So back to the protecting someone. What situation did you do? Like, what was the craziest thing that you've ever had to?
I would say two times this has happened where fans have showed up at celebrities. This kid came. He took a bus from Alabama with his luggage to Kim Kardashian's house. Oh. And he was at the front gate, and they're calling me saying, hey, this guy is here. And, it's a little scary because obviously their mindset is that. And so we talked, and he said, no, I'm supposed to be with her. We want to have a child. And so when you're dealing with some mentally deranged, that could be a little dangerous too.
So what do? You just call?
Yeah, well, we called the LAPD. They have a threat management unit, and then, put a hold on him. And thank God he went back home. We got a hold of his parents, and they're like, yeah, we wondered where he went. We haven't seen him in a week,
Wow.
But so things like that happen, and then there's the crazy stalkers that I think obsessed with what they believe is I think what happens is people see how that is, and they believe that they should be part of that, or believe that they're that's their life.
So are there any signs to look out for that you learned along the way? Like, take me for example. I'm certainly no celebrity, right? But
a little bit.
There are a lot of people that know me, and I oftentimes think about, okay, I had a situation last night where a guy, I know for a fact this person is like not all together there, because I had encounters and it's like, okay, now this is getting out of hand. So I blocked him on all social media, but I'm thinking, okay, how does this escalate, and what do I look for to protect myself from eventually having someone walk up my driveway? Today I was taking out the trash and I'm thinking to myself, what if this dude walks up my driveway right now? What am I going to do? I know what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
But how do we prevent that? Because a lot of people, you know, you don't have to be a social media influencer. You could be a high-level business executive or somebody that, you know.
And every level has them. Fitness people, girls. I mean, they get stalkers. I think you got to be careful with the messaging, because sometimes someone's probably writing you, "Hey, I want help or advice," and next thing you know, it gets south because you don't tell them what they want to hear, or you're not responsive enough. And sometimes people obsessed and go, "Well, how come Clark's not getting back to me? I've wrote him 3 times." And it's
like, "Dear Stan, I wrote you 3 times."
It's a balancing act. It's a wire, because I tell clients too. And one thing I think, especially if you're any kind of high profile or public person, you know, don't ever post on social media where you are now.
Yeah.
Especially if you have kids. Make sure you're long gone, or you posted yesterday, you know, for what you did yesterday, today, or something. So.
Yeah, I remember I first got an answering machine. Remember when?
Yeah, of course.
My buddy thought I was a gigolo because I had an answer. Dude, why you got an answering machine? But my dad would always say, "Listen, don't say I'm not home right now." Like, you don't want to give anyone any idea of, just say, leave a message.
Yeah.
That's it. They don't need to know where you're at, or don't say,
exactly.
"I'm in Kentucky right now. No one's at my house with my family."
Yeah, exactly. But like, back to this gentleman now, unless he's got some beef with you about business, sometimes you just better to ignore them, or address it head on and say, "Hey guy, like I don't have what you need," or whatever. I don't know what the beef is, right? But yeah, it's something you gotta, it's a balancing act.
Yeah,
I mean, you don't want to get to restraining orders, because that's just a piece of paper as well, but still,
right.
Hopefully it doesn't go to that. So,
just, you know, it's food for thought for anyone out there that has any sort of exposure to the world, which we all do at this case. So we all just need to be safe. So 11 years as an officer, you're still in the reserves with the sheriff's department. So from there, you went into the executive protection, and then from that,
I'm doing the executive protection and a reserve, and I'm at the Spectrum Gym in LA, and there was a woman, Shannon Penna, the founder of Quest, was working out there. We'd make small, you know, you see the same people in the gym, make some small talk. And one day she said, "Oh, hey Bruce, we started this nutrition company, these protein bars. They only had 2 flavors at the time, vanilla almond crunch and peanut butter." She said, "Check them out, try it out." So I said, "Oh, that's amazing." And I think I saw her over the progression of time. I saw her like the next week and said, "Those bars were really amazing." Because, you know, at the time we've grown up on some pretty crummy bars, right? The taste and texture was there. And we literally just became fast friends, and her husband worked out there. And I said, funny enough, I said, "I don't know if you're interested, but," goes back to relationships, "a friend of mine, a woman that runs PR, is doing a celebrity golf tournament at Riviera Country Club. If you want to give me some bars, I could probably get them in some people's hands." Now I have no idea what I was thinking. I didn't know anything about PR. I didn't know anything about product.
You knew people.
I knew people. She said, "That'd be amazing." Gave me like a handful of bars, a couple boxes. At the time, they were like very limited to what they made. I went to Riviera, told my friend Cheryl, I said, "Listen, here's product for all the talent. Can you do me a favor?" I don't even think I knew what the word content meant then, right? I said, "But maybe get some pictures or something." She goes, "I'll do you one better. I have a guy here that's got a YouTube channel. He'll do some," and they did some taste testing on the carpet. And I got it in the hands of Mario Lopez and some talent that was there. And I got that content, and I remember I emailed it to them, and they're like, "Oh my God, like, how do you know these people?" And it wasn't that big of a deal. There were just some people I did the event for.
Everybody loves a free bar.
You're right, exactly. Yeah, there's nothing, no cost. And that just kept progressing, and I stopped by the office. It's interesting. I had a really nice office in El Segundo, inside the limousine company. I had a beautiful office like this, and I went and visited them at their Quest headquarters, and it was the city of Paramount, which is just below Compton. And when I pulled up, it was in like an industrial strip mall. And when I walked in the front door, I was like, they're not going to be in business in 6 months. It was just some crappy little building. And when I walked in the office, they had these little IKEA desks you would get for your kid. And they all were sitting in a circle in these desks. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, it was scary.
Yeah.
Hung out for a while, and I, kept getting product, getting in people's hands. And then one day, Ron, Shannon's husband, they were going to Las Vegas for the Magic Show, which is a big apparel show. He said, "Hey, what are you doing tomorrow? We're going to go to Vegas." I'm like, he goes, "We'll book you a ticket. Just come with us." I flew to Vegas with the whole group, walked around this whole Magic Show because we were talking about doing an apparel business, which we did and failed. But he said, "I'm going to drive home because my flight's late. Our flights are delayed because of weather." So I drove with Ron 4-hour drive from Vegas. Bunch of questions and answers and just bullshit trivia. And as we pulled into LA, he goes, and this is 9 months later, by the way. I've been helping him build relationships. I got it in the hands of, it was on a set of Extra, sent it to Jessica Lopez, because what I was they were giving me this product. I said, well, shit, I might as well just mail it to my clients, right? And I had them do it for me. So as we're pulling into LA, he goes, hey, listen, we're going to put you on the payroll starting Friday. I said, no, you don't have to. He goes, no, we've been stealing from you. Like, you're doing all this cool stuff for us. We have not reciprocated. We will figure it's, well, you do whatever you want. You can take the money, keep doing your day job. But so they put me on the payroll, and it was an okay fee. It was probably
got stock. Did you get any stock?
Well, we'll lead up to that.
Okay.
It was probably your average American salary. And it was, didn't change my life. So I kept doing my day job, but there was something about the why became them. Like my why started becoming, these are cool people. The product's cool. And that was at the time Facebook just started, but people were writing blogs, and they'd be, women and men were like, hey, I lost 25 pounds over the last 6 months eating these Quest bars as an alternative snack. So then you started feeling good. It wasn't just you were just slinging protein bars, but people were actually saying, hey, I'm diabetic. Hey, I have celiac disease. I found these Quest bars. Like, there's cool stuff happening, right? And you're like, wow, this is a good feeling. It made me feel good, me as a person.
Yeah.
And so it kind of became my why. And while I still did the security business, I started showing up their office more and more.
You got in the circle.
Yeah, I had my own little IKEA desk. And after a period of time, I just transitioned. And what I learned, and I tell people this, I met them when I was 45 years old, and I did anything that needed to be done in the company. It was and by the way, trash needed to be taken out. There was times where the equipment because everything was done right there. So the machine would break. Hey guys, we need help. We'd all go out there and put on hairnets and start making product. I did whatever it took to the point where I created the events department, created the relationship with the athletes, built out the athlete department. We started an apparel company, like I said, was helping there. It just, anything needed to get done, I did. And I kind of became as just known as the guy that was just doing whatever needed to get done. Now, fast forward, I became the chief communications officer, doing PR and marketing, all this other stuff, but I just did whatever it took. And I tell people this, I think on an average year, I probably was on the road 40 weekends a year. Wow. And I'm not exaggerating that. If it wasn't a CrossFit event, it was a bodybuilding event, it was some kind of event, and I'd be back in the office Monday morning. And then I'd start over again. I'd either leave on Thursday or Friday. And I became not the best looking face, right? But I became the face of Quest. Not by design. As a matter of fact, people thought I was the founder. And when I would be at an event with the founders, they would say, who are these guys? And it kind of became a running joke, and they were cool with it. But that's what I did. It was sweat equity. It was just hard work. And we sold to Atkins after 9 years for $1 billion cash. And only because of, I think, the sweat and what I did, I earned a piece of it along with, a handful of other people. But
see, that goes all the way back to that small town in Jersey.
Yeah. That
you learned, you do what you need to do. Then the Marine Corps added a layer.
Yeah.
Then being in the force and, operating.
Serving other people. And
yeah, all of those layers add up. And people, unfortunately, in today's world, expect to have overnight success and be a part of $1 billion, sell to a company. I love that story, man.
Yeah, and I don't know if I could replicate it, but I do tell people it's like I met them at the right time, and they needed help, and I say this, I was the least qualified, right? What did I know about working in a nutrition company? But I knew how to build relationships. And they would use me as an example sometime. As we grew and we got bigger and bigger, people would come and apply for jobs like director of marketing, and I would remember they would call me into an interview. Hey, Clark's here, he wants to be the director of marketing. He wants $150,000 a year, and here's his resume. And then I'd sit down and they say, Bruce, how long did you work for us for free? And so about 9 months. And then you see people sinking in their seats like, oh. And I'm not saying that's listen, everyone's entitled to apply for a good job, right? But they would kind of say, hey, where do you want to start? I know you're coming in here for this high dollar job, but are you willing to do anything to start here? Or what? And I tell people this, if you find a friend or you come across someone that's starting a business, and you could afford to donate your time or help them. Just be a good friend. Maybe it turns into something.
Yeah, if you could take away any one thing from this interview, I would say that is the takeaway. There's so much as it relates to sweat equity. For the pure love of doing what you're doing, your why became that couple, because you got a good feeling from seeing people make a transformation in their life from a product as simple as, hey, we're going to make these bars in our kitchen because we feel like there's a better way to do it.
Right.
And now it's turned into this $1 billion exit, which is such a great story. So where does Tom Bilyeu fit into this whole thing? Because you look online.
Yeah, for sure.
He seems to be the guy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to go back to, I'm going to mention Tom, but I always say this, bring value before you ask for anything.
Yeah.
Most of the world is opposite.
Yeah.
Can I get a paycheck? Can I do this? And by the way, I might help you.
Right.
So I always practice that. Tell people, get in there, bring value, and people are going to reward you. But as far as Tom, so Ron was the original founder, and then Tom worked for Ron and Mike at the tech company. He was a copywriter. They brought him over to be the president of Quest from the copyright company. Now he exited. He was in charge of sales and marketing the whole time I was there, but he exited. They had a divorce internally 3 years before we sold. Okay. So then he went on and built this show, Impact Theory, right. Which is obviously a YouTube show and all that. Yeah. And Ron's still there, and he so.
So that was part of the exit strategy. Was he stayed on 5 years as CEO or whatever?
Yeah. And now we're all gone. Everyone's gone now.
Okay. Wow.
Adkins took over everything, but I say this, bring value, no matter what. I mean, whether you're a trainer, you could bring, it doesn't matter what you do.
That's what my dad taught me. And my dad sold cash registers, and I would drive around town with him, and he would pull up to a convenience store or an Elks Club or one of those drinking establishments, and he would go in to change the tape or program the new computer that just came in. I saw him go from the old school
Isn't that funny?
to the computers. But he would always come out and tell me, he said, son, listen to me. Regardless of who's on the other side of those doors, whether I believe in their political beliefs, religious, whatever, they've paid me for a service. My job is to outperform that service with what I'm providing to them. And he instilled that in me. And so I mean, our careers parallel so much.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here listening to you going, that's the same. That's the same. And that's anything I've ever done in my life is I want to bring so much value that they're looking at me like, we can't let this person go.
Exactly, that's it.
We need him.
Yeah.
And we want him to be rewarded in this exit strategy. And I'm currently at the age of 60 working on a project like that in my life right now because I see the value in it. And I don't do it because I want this big exit. I do it because it's in my DNA. I can't not show up and do my absolute best and go, okay, I'm here because they trusted me to provide a service, and I'm going to outperform anyone's expectation of what that looks like and have them go, wow, we've never met a guy like this before.
That's incredible.
And whatever happens, happens.
Yeah. And I've had a couple other things. I've had companies, I've tried to help them and it didn't work. One of them went out of business, but
that's most of the
stuff. Yeah, unfortunately, right? But I like having fun doing it. But going back to, like you said about your dad, I think I learned all my work ethic from my father. He was a contractor, hardworking guy, and I went to work with him, and I think I learned a couple valuable lessons with him. Actually, one of my first ones was, I think when you're teenagers, maybe we're a little entitled or we think whatever we believe, and he made it really clear, man, everyone's got to work in the house. Like, there's no free lunch.
Yeah. How old were you when your dad, is he gone?
No, he actually passed away at the age we are now. Okay. He got colon cancer. And didn't pay attention. He didn't go to the doctor for about a year. He was kind of a tough old veteran,
Yeah.
So.
Well, it's what I was saying at the beginning of this thing. Men think,
yeah,
if I don't know about it, it can't hurt me.
Yeah. It was sad because he was a pretty rugged dude, and I idolized him. So it's kind of hard when you see someone withering away.
So you were what age then? I always try and do the math on like how old my dad was when I was at a certain.
And it's crazy because we're, you and I are almost the same age. And I remember when he died at 61, I was like, God, he's getting so old. And I'm thinking, that's not, now it's like shit.
I know.
So, but I learned so many, I tell you this, I can hang my hat on work ethic and giving more than I'm asked.
Yeah. Well, props to your dad, props to mine.
Yeah.
So how many kids do you have?
3 kids total.
3 kids.
Yeah.
All right.
How old? My daughter's a nurse. She's 34. My son's 33. He did 2 tours in Iraq.
Wow. As a
he was in the Army.
Okay.
As a grunt, but yeah, he took a beating there. He's got tore up, knee and deaf in one ear. And
what's his name?
Nicholas. He actually Bruce, but we call him Nick because not to confuse him with me.
All right, Nick. Thank you for your service, young man. I salute you.
And Sarah's a nurse in a hospital up in Inglewood, 7 months in. She loves it.
Right on.
Yeah.
Hi, Sarah.
Yeah. So the journey continues, though. We sold, but I'm helping these other brands, and Now my next chapter, I guess, is coaching people, which you're doing. And it's interesting. I didn't really know anything about coaching. Other than a coach in high school, right, or a football coach.
Right. Yeah.
Now I realize there's a lot of people need help. A lot of people need guidance, even high level people. So coaching has become. I'm getting into it, right? So I'm an amateur.
Yeah.
But
so that's something that I definitely want to help you with. We'll have line conversations about that, because you are right. There are a lot of people that look to men like you that have a resume, that have achieved success in life, that they just need somebody to talk to. And when you have that command presence, which you do, which you learned in the Marine Corps and as a police officer, that is something that men respect. And they just want someone with integrity and with character and consistency they can look to and go, okay, I'm willing to invest money into this guy and see what happens. All of us, I love to be coached. I have coaches for every area of my life. Matter of fact, I just hired one right now to really take my health to the next level. People look at me like, Clark, you're pretty healthy. Well, I'm going internal now, from the blood, working my way out. And that's who I want to connect you with.
Like a medical coach.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So he literally knows me inside and out, and we're going to go to the next level.
It's interesting. This is just me. I still feel like I'm that dumb, humble kid from New Jersey. And when some people write me, hey, I really want to pick your brain on business, I'm always like, it's honored that people reach out, right? Yeah. Same thing with you, I'm sure, right?
Yeah, and it should be humbling.
Yeah.
We should always be in a position of, wow, I feel so grateful that someone would look to me, but I will echo your coach's sentiments of not saying dumb.
Yeah.
I say the same thing, and sometimes we say it just to be joking around, but it still resonates somehow with us. It's a humility. Like, I came from Canton, Ohio. It's a steel mill. I should be working in a steel mill somewhere. But every time I talk to someone in my family, they're like, wow, we're so proud of you for doing what you've done. And it's not because I'm dumb.
Right,
I wouldn't be in the position I'm in today. You wouldn't have been involved in, because you were smart enough to understand, if I clean this toilet, if I sit in on this meeting, and if I serve these people, eventually somehow this is going to turn out good for me, because I can see something's happening here that I want to be involved in.
Exactly.
That's not dumb.
Yeah, you're right. And a lot of people don't see that. They don't see those opportunities.
Right. And that's what you teach other people.
Yeah.
That's business, because we're not teaching anyone anything new. We're teaching them basics that have been forgotten, because there's an expectation now that you invest in Bitcoin, you're going to be a millionaire overnight, and it doesn't work that way. I'm watching a documentary right now on Netflix about Wham, right? The musical group Wham.
Yeah, of course.
So I was just so encouraged by the fact that I'm watching them struggle. We oftentimes forget the struggle of any business. You watched one from scratch go to this. Yeah. Now it's done. It's over with. It's in the past.
But there were struggles.
What's next?
Yeah.
Because the fun part is the struggle.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what we teach people. It's like, okay, you got to hang in there. You got to do this. Well, I'll never empty a trash can. Then you will never amount to anything.
Right. Yeah.
That's the lesson that some people need to learn. And you are adding value, so therefore you deserve to be rewarded. Because just like my dad and your dad said, look, as long as you're outperforming that money, then you have every reason to be justified in whatever amount you're asking.
Right, exactly. Period. Yeah, and he was, it's funny, I think back in the day he would have been called a workaholic. Yeah. Now you call him an entrepreneur, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So the industry, what now? How do you see this industry that we're in, this whole fitness? Because you're around, you're like me, you observe, you see different things. How do you feel about the state of, I don't know, fitness, bodybuilding, whatever?
You know, I've always been I've never got up on stage to compete, but I've competed in powerlifting, but I've always admired it. And I've worked out with, everyone I know is a bodybuilder. I've trained with them. And I think it's a great sport, but it's definitely become very unhealthy, if you could be honest. I mean, you want to look at someone who has a great physique and think, okay, they're healthy, but they're probably not so healthy inside. And obviously it's no secret. I mean, I don't know how much you want to talk about supplements, but I think people just take too much stuff.
Yeah.
And I get it, but at the end of the day, we want to. It's interesting. Someone I talked to recently, and he would probably say it if I was even on camera. He was on a documentary called Bigger, Stronger, Faster, and he said, "I'd rather die early but be big."
Yeah.
And I said, and by the way, he's having some health issues now. And I talked to him. I said,
who was that?
Christian Boving.
Oh yeah.
Christian?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that popped up on my thread the other day. It showed him out there on the beach saying that.
We're good friends.
Yeah.
And now he's got some prostate cancer issues and stuff. And he's younger than us.
Well, I might too. I just went and had an MRI today on my prostate, and the doctor called me immediately and said, you got to bring you in for a biopsy.
That's okay, but they get inflamed though. Don't they get larger as you get older?
I think it's hyperplasia or whatever it's called.
But my point is this: I think when you're younger and you don't think about those things. I'm a big bodybuilder, but as you get to be our age, I do want to live.
Yeah, man.
I'd like to see my kids get grandkids and all that good stuff.
Well, now we're at that place in life where it's fun to be. We're a sage, right? We're at that. We've gone through all of these different stages of life. So people will look to you and they'll trust you more. You've been through this big exit in a company. So there's that value. You've been on the streets, serving and all of these things. So now people take everything you say seriously, and financially you're good and life is cool. So now's the time. That's why this show's called Get Busy Livin.
Yeah. That's amazing.
And
a lot of people aren't getting busy living.
Not at all. Not at all. And it's just such a stressful situation that we live in. But people ask me all the time, Clark, you seem like you're always having so much fun. I'm like, I am. Like, this is a blast.
Yeah.
I couldn't wait to make this happen, man. And again, I apologize for the
delays. No, it's all good.
It's just like you got to just.
But I think the fitness industry is great. It's growing. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. There's some great people in it. Yeah.
How's Christian doing anyway?
He's doing well. I owe him a phone call. We talked a few days ago. Yeah.
Yeah. Tell him I said hi. I often think about him, and he and I had done a lot in our early careers modeling. It was
you
really
crossed paths with magazines, right?
Oh yeah, me, him, Michael Hearn, Frank Seppi, Sebastian Siegel. We were the top 5 guys.
Sebastian's still in good shape.
Oh right? Yeah, he's in great shape.
And so is Frank. I think
Frank is in great shape. I see Frank online all the time. Mike obviously is in great shape. So
Greg Plitt was a generation below you, right?
Yeah, he came in after. Right. I wrote the first article on Greg Plitt. Steve Bleckman reached out to me and said, hey, there's this new kid coming up in the industry, and he's just getting out of the Naval Academy or West Point, whatever it was. And I need you to write an article for me. I said, okay, let me see this guy. He was making a big deal about him, and I saw his photo. I'm like, oh, okay. This guy's for real. Then I talked to him on the phone, interviewed him. I'm like, he's going to do something. He's really going to be somebody in this industry, and he was, and he still has an impact.
Still does. We hired him actually early days of Quest. Somehow we met him, and he worked the Arnold booth for us when we launched the apparel. We had a apparel booth, and I spent a lot of time with him. He had a work ethic. Yeah. He showed up at whatever time the expo opens, 9. He stayed till the last person, and most of his fans were young guys. And I don't know how he did it. 3 days straight. Yeah.
Well, again, it goes back to, he was a young kid in Maryland somewhere. He grew up with a great family. Then he goes into an academy and learns all of the lessons. He was a wrestler.
Yeah, he was disciplined.
Yeah, so wrestlers are some of the most disciplined people on the planet. So he was just used to it. He could not have stayed till the end.
Yeah.
He would have been there no matter what.
Pushing the edge of everything.
Yeah. That's such a tragic thing. There's a lot of tragic situations in the industry now, all of these people passing. But the thing about it is they blame things right away that may or may not have been the cause of, like, this new guy, Joe.
The kid that's all shredded, the 30-year-old?
Shredded guy, I guess it was an aneurysm.
That's what someone said, yeah.
So that has nothing to do with supplements.
Exactly.
That's just a very unfortunate situation that it happens, man. But so anyway, with respect to this industry and what you got going on now with coaching, where would you like to be specifically in your niche? Like, what would be your target audience?
I think we
can start building that platform now.
Yeah, I think honestly, I think the startup phase is great for me. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Once a company's established, it's a little different of an animal. I like to be part. Like when we started Quest, I was part of building that culture. I was part of building that wow factory. I had the opportunity to go and meet Tony Shea, who wrote a book, Delivering Happiness.
Okay.
And I created a whole vibe around that.
See, culture is overlooked too much. Mm-hmm. My business is heavy on culture. The culture is excellence.
Yeah.
If I were to describe it in one word, and I just had this meeting the other day with my team, I said, we will be the best coaching for men over 50 on the planet, no questions asked, whatever it takes. And it really just, you rise above the situations. So you're going to be a business coach with startups. So that's, we're defining.
Yeah. I think that would be better for me to help people in the early stages, help them build a culture, create a culture. Because a lot of people think they have culture in a business and they're like, well, I put a pinball machine in the lobby and I have snacks. Okay, but your employees are miserable because you don't say hi to them.
Right.
People don't, the culture is something that's floating in the air. It's not something you can really put your hands on sometimes. You know what I mean?
It's definitely not a ping pong table and colorful walls.
Yeah.
And you pretend like
and sometimes you'll walk in, I'm sure you visit a lot of businesses. Sometimes you walk in the front and you're like, this feels good.
Yeah.
How the receptionist talks to you, how people are greeted. There's a thing, it's a theme that goes on. And
well, I'll tell you a culture I just walked into that I was waiting forever, Russell Brunson with ClickFunnels.
I saw that.
Okay. So we see these people and we have this image in our mind of what they'll be like based upon what they put on social media. And it's only snippets. But I had a feeling that Russell Brunson was really who he represents himself as. When I got there, I immediately felt the culture because like you said, and that's something that people need to understand, it's an energy that's in the air that's carried by every single person who's touched by the person in the leadership role. That man is absolutely, I would have to say, probably the best leader I've seen because I've been around a lot of these companies.
Oh, wow.
I walk in and they say, when you meet your heroes,
sometimes you don't,
I was so let down with most of these companies. I've literally walked out of opportunity because I said, I cannot be a part of this culture because I don't want it to affect who I am as a person. And I'm not willing to trade my energy for money. I will walk away.
Yeah.
And I have literally in the middle of a meeting, I'm like, ooh, I don't like what he said. I can tell he's not a good person. I got up in the middle of a meeting one time, walked out, say you were the guy that got me there. I'm like, Bruce, come here, bro. I can't do this. He's like, what are you talking about? This is happening right now. I said, no, it's not happening anymore. I'm done.
Wow.
I'm done.
Yeah.
He's like, are you serious? Absolutely. So that in and of itself, the culture thing is huge. So Russell,
he's a young guy too, right?
Yeah, he's young.
Yeah, that's great.
He's phenomenal. So, back to understanding the value. I had an opportunity to come to me today where there was a lot of money involved. And I'm sitting here thinking, okay, how is this going to affect my bottom line financially if I choose this? In the risk reward ratio, how will it affect me if I take this money? Will it have a long-term negative effect on this deal that I want to put everything into and give my best? So I walked away from a potential, I haven't told these people yet, but I'm going to tell them and just say no, because it's not worth it to me for a little paycheck.
Yeah. One of my good friends always reminds me, not all money is good money. And it's got to really feel good. And I had an opportunity. I had a couple crazy opportunities when we sold Quest because, it gets out there who you are. And a very prominent person that's in the space that we both know, he said, hey, I don't know what you made, nor do I care. He goes, just tell me what you need. And he goes, as a matter of fact, I don't even know what you did at Quest, but I want you to do what you did there because you created some kind of vibe and, whether you're called the mayor of the company. So I did some homework. I called a few people and they're like, you would never want to work here. We hate it here. Matter of fact, I'm here because of a paycheck, but I could get fired in 6 months and it won't even blink. But everyone I talked to, and no one said, hey, he's a great dude. Everyone said, no, you don't want to work here. Are you crazy?
Wow.
So, and I turned it down, but then I realized you want to be at a place that is fun and rewarding and you're valued. You're allowed to do the right thing,
Well, edification and appreciation goes so much further than money does.
Yeah.
We all want to be respected and appreciated for the work that we're doing. Of course, we need money to survive, but it goes back to our dads and our parents. Some of us didn't get all of the edification that we needed or wanted because our dads were the rough, tough guys. Didn't go to the doctor and died earlier than they should have because they were just that dude. So with that comes this inability to communicate on a very emotional level that I do now with my kids. But so when somebody else comes along and says, hey, I just wanted to tell you, you're doing a really good job here. What does that do? It makes you want to work harder. So I love the direction that you're going with your coaching business. I want to encourage you to do that because businesses need it. And if companies start with culture and then, of course, add all of the business acumen that you learned along the way, the chances of succeeding by hiring a coach are just absolutely multiplied compared to thinking, I can do this on my own with a YouTube video. No, you really need somebody that you can bounce ideas off of, and you have to be coachable. That's the key.
And a lot of people lack self-awareness.
Yeah.
They're like, I started a company, I'm a CEO. Okay, what's that mean? You have a title. But you got to be a nice person. You got to sometimes get down on the ground with your people and relate.
Yeah. I feel very proud of myself for being that guy in my company, and hopefully that's how people see me, and I feel that it is because it's authentic. Like, I'm not trying to be anybody. It's just me. And that's Canton, Ohio, the Marine Corps, and all that.
I talked to a guy yesterday. He was referred. Funny enough, I haven't even advertised, and he said, I think I want to hire you as a coach. And by the end of the conversation, he goes, you're just a real guy. Like, because I was actually said, I think I'm going to try and talk you out of this business. He hasn't started yet. It's a concept. And I said, you sure? And he's a fitness guy. I said, you sure you want to do this? I said, by the end, and we're meeting again tomorrow, but I said, I'm not here to like sugarcoat. I just want you to know the downfalls and the pitfalls. Don't, And he's like, man, he goes, no one's ever told me any of these things. I was going to put $500,000 in this. And, and I was like, well, hold on. Before we do that, let's see it through what this looks like,
Yeah. See, that's wisdom and that's smart. So you have all your fees set up. You're like, are you in the process already of having your nuts and bolts?
I have
together?
a website set up. Do you know Bedros Keuilian?
Yeah, I was going to say.
Oh,
yeah,
wait, that's right. You've known him. You've known him for 20
Bedros is the other guy that I would say runs his organization with that culture that is.
Now that so I forgot, we both know him, and you've known him for years, right?
Oh, yeah.
I've got to know him. He's probably one of the best human beings I know.
Agreed.
I've helped him out, a couple of relationships and some things. Yeah, he has his company called Truline, which is a nutrition company, and he's invited me to some events, and he gave me a half-day coaching, and that's where your name came up, actually. So he helped me, formulate what I'm doing. But yeah, so that's an example. You walk in his headquarters, everyone knew my name, and so that's happened there. It happened at Reebok when I visited, and it happened at First Form.
Yeah.
The same thing.
Andy Frisella.
People know you. They treat you like you're part of the family. It's just like I said, when you walk in the front door, you're like, there's something about this.
That's what you want.
And when you leave, you're like, I want to go back.
I want to go back. I want to be there.
So that's only happened maybe 5 times where I visited companies.
Well, you obviously have the right guy speaking into your life, because a half day with Bedros is worth the time investment to travel however far it takes you to get there and sit there and listen. He did the same thing with me and my business partner, Danny. And that's the reason we're on the path that we're on. And then I went and hired another coach and invested a lot of money there in implementing what I've learned along the way. And I'm starting to see the fruits of that, right?
That's
it's
incredible.
Really becoming a thing.
Yeah.
I
love it.
How can people find your website?
It's my full name, brucecardenas.com.
All right. We'll put it up on.
Yeah, appreciate that.
Yeah, we'll put it there. So what about social media platforms where people to follow?
Yeah, Instagram primarily, Bruce E. Cardenas. Bruce E. Cardenas. And of course, one of the things the coach told me is, hey, you need to be on Twitter. You need to be on everything. YouTube.
Have you gotten Threads yet?
What do you mean? What's that mean?
Threads is the new meta.
Oh, Threads. Yeah, with 30 million people sign up the first day.
Yeah.
I have not.
Okay.
Have you done that already?
Yes. And my coaching would be, if it's serving a purpose in your business, then get it. Don't just get it because everybody else is getting on it.
Yeah.
So I did it because I get all of my leads through social media. Like, I've not paid for any advertising anywhere yet, and I'm building a solid business just from social media platforms. So I would recommend that when you do get any platform, don't get it because Tom Bilyeu said to get it, or Gary Vee, or one of these guys. You got to be on this one. Well, you have to be on it if you're going to utilize it for what it's going to do for you. So you, like me, you're building a brand off of your brand. You are the brand. You're the guy that helped that company sell out for $1 billion, and you're going to teach that to other people. So that is your message on all of these platforms.
Which I just learned recently, not within the last year. People keep saying, Bruce, you are the brand.
Yeah.
Forget you're not. You need to build your brand, and then you help other people.
And sometimes our humility will stop us from doing that, but you need to, right? Like, you've been given your gift for a reason. You are connected with all of the people you're connected with for a reason. So that brand needs to be out there, loud and proud, shining bright. Yesterday I said this in the gym, and I'm going to make a shirt about it, and it's going to say, someone needs to shine. Like, someone needs to shine. And I instantly think of Deion Sanders, like this very
coach
out there person who is really passionate, and I believe God called him to do what he does. And that's the same way I feel. So making the statement, someone needs to shine, is not a negative thing. It's like, I'm going to shine. Everywhere I go, I'm going to shine.
Yeah.
Because I know what's underneath that. Like when I walk in a room, I'm going to be that guy, and that is the brand.
Yeah.
So that's the encouragement I want to leave with you as we wrap this up.
Yeah.
Is to embrace that and to really embody that. And anytime your pride or ego starts getting in the way of, oh, who do you think you are? You've never, those are just lies, man.
Yeah, and self-doubt has kept me from doing this for all these years. Self-doubt. Well, and it's time to not do that, Well,
it's the end of that.
Yeah.
So listen, if you are self-doubting in any way, shape, or form, it's time for you to shine. I want to thank my buddy Bruce for coming down here today and bringing us the great gifts and all of that sort of stuff. We're going to make some relationships happen after this. But as always, get busy living and make it a great day. Boom, right on the money. 1 hour.
Oh, is that it? Is that the magic area?
No, 1 hour is usually, if you look at the analytics, it starts dropping off. You don't listen.